Yes, but ultimately that values are very important, and that the set of values changes our vision of reality. So at the end of the book, I do sort of paint a picture of where we are now and the sort of world that we might be aware of, that in the past people have been aware of, and it's been embodied in their culture. And in other parts of the world they have and still are to some extent, to the extent that we haven't westernized them, able to understand these things. And you know, the master and his emissary, I just had this image of this wise master who was usurped by an emissary who was bright, but not bright enough to know what it was he didn't know. And that's the danger. It's not ignorance, but ignorance of ignorance that causes the problems. And so I just took that idea, and then I found in the subsequent reading for this new book that this very myth is present all over the world. It's there in the 8th century, 9th century Chinese classic, The Secret of the Golden Flower. It's there in the Vedanta. It's there in a North American Iroquois myth, with which I begin part 3, about two brothers. And I can't rehash it for you briefly, but it's stunning. It just is like they intuited the interior relation of the left hemisphere as sort of slightly ignorant, but rather dangerous and brash, and the right hemisphere as holding the whole picture and needing to be the one that takes charge of the whole picture. So this right and left hemisphere, it's not true that we want a left hemisphere stroke. My left hemisphere has proved very useful. I wouldn't have been able to write any books without it. So it's very important. But the right hemisphere should always be the superintendent. It's not an equal relationship. The right hemisphere sees more, understands more, is more temperate. The left hemisphere is rash, impulsive, sees very little, but drives us with its own agenda. And I think we're being driven by this agenda of the left hemisphere, and we drastically need to recalibrate.
I think at an emotional level, I heard a talk recently by an Amazonian tribal leader, and she was talking about her lands in Ecuador having been, it was called Oil Block 22. The Ecuadorian government had defined this region of the Amazon jungle, and they quantified it. They said it's got this resource, it's got this, so we can move this tribe to another region of the jungle which is equivalent. And she said, no, but you know, our people, we hunt here. We know how these trees work. We know how these rivers work. This is our bit of the forest, and it's different to the other bit of the forest. And the government sort of said, no, it's not. It's all these ways. Actually, you're getting more forest. And she said this remarkable thing. She said, if you pay attention, then you know. And you know it's different. And it doesn't need explanation why it's different, but you know that it's different.
That's right.
And we don't tune into that voice often enough, I think, that says we know a thing.
Absolutely. And there's a sequence in a film called The Divided Brain, which was made about my work, where I'm talking with Leroy Littlebear, who's a Blackfoot chief in Canada. And it's a wonderful scene, I think. I don't know, have you seen it?
No.
It's brilliant, actually, because he says, this mountain, these trees, they are my brothers and sisters, they are my family. And he thinks of them all as alive. He said, everything is in flux. I mean, he's been listening to Heraclitus. And, you know, this whole idea, he says, there is no word in our language for inanimate. This is a picture that is completely different. And it's typically destructive, this, well, appalling story of the oil searching, which just takes everything that's unique and contextual and living and just says, no, it's a resource for me to grab. Don't forget, the left hemisphere is effectively seeing the world as a heap of resource. I can grab that, I can get that, either for food or for shelter or for my purposes in manipulating the world, not in helping me understand the world.